Currently, in my backyard, I have two massive stormwater drainage pipes that I'm turning into a bunker. Right now, these pipes are sitting above ground, and a bunker, if I'm remembering correctly, is below ground. So we have to remove an extraordinary amount of dirt, but luckily we have some extraordinary machines that can do it. Let's get started. Throughout my backyard bunker project, I've tried to keep the cost down as much as possible. But by trying to do that, things actually ended up being more expensive. I'll explain, of course, but fun fact, cranes are a whole lot less expensive than I thought. I'll keep you updated on the prices as we go, of course, so my mistakes can be avoided by anyone following in my culvert bunker footsteps, because I'm sure that I'm not the only one who wants to build a bunker in my backyard. But let's go back to when the tractors arrived and my wife still had her lawn. I think this backyard bunker project finally became real for my wife about when the lawn started disappearing. But I'm hoping that we'll have the hole dug, the backyard bunker finished, and new grass put back on top within just a few weeks. Fingers crossed. We have two machines going at the same time, because teamwork makes the dream work. The excavator with its long arm will scrape away the dirt and dig the hole, while the loader with its large bucket will move the dirt away from the hole and into piles or into awaiting dump trucks. We have to haul away a lot of the dirt from my backyard, since the backyard bunker displaces a substantial amount of underground real estate. Oddly enough, here in the city, there's not that many places that want the torn up grass, since it isn't clean fill. Organics biodegrade over time and settle, and most construction sites, or places looking for clean fill, want gravel, sand, rocks, or stuff that can be compacted to make solid foundations. Luckily though, I do have a lot of that rocky stuff to haul off as well. And there's a construction site a few miles away that will take all of our extra dirt for free, as long as we truck it over there ourselves. The portion of dirt that needs to be hauled away is specifically the amount of dirt that fills the volume of the bunker tube, along with the entry and exit shafts. Apparently, when I told my algebra teacher in high school that I would never need to find the volume of a cylinder in real life, I was wrong. To find the volume of my culvert bunker tube, we take pi, which is 3.14, and times it by the radius, which is 6 feet, and times that by the height. Or in my case, since it's horizontal, the length. The volume of my cylinder is 4,500 cubic feet, or 166 cubic yards worth of dirt. Adding in the entry and exit shafts, we have about 200 cubic yards of dirt to remove, which ends up being about 20 dump trucks worth, give or take. I won't have the final excavation pricing until we're actually done filling the hole back up, so we'll have to wait a bit on that one. And of course, we did dial 811 before digging, since it's a free service here in the USA that comes to mark any utilities or gas lines, none of which ended up being in my backyard, but it's always better to be safe and know for sure. Speaking of potentially dangerous situations, I should probably go see what my wife thinks of all this. Huge thanks to the Narwhal Frio for sponsoring this video and making sure that the dirt from outside doesn't contaminate my house on the inside. Hi, Cambry.
Jerry. Zach asked me a while back if he could build a bunker in our backyard. I didn't really take him serious until the tube showed up. Watching my backyard disappear might not be my favorite thing, but our son Cyrus loves watching every minute of it. And that being said, Zach normally takes his boots off outside, unless we're durability testing a self-cleaning robot. A lot of dirt somehow still manages to sneak in. The Narwhal Frio has something called AI Dirt Sense technology. So not only can it do scheduled cleaning runs, but it can notice the floor if it's still dirty and go back again and again, all on its own, to make sure the floor is spotless by the time it finishes.
The Narwhal Frio is both a vacuum and a mop and has triangular microfiber pads to clean hard floors.
Also using those triangular pads on the bottom, the Narwhal Frio has a patented twisting motion called the edge swing, which pivots these little pads into hard-to-reach corners and crevices. It's kind of like a dance move.
A mess that large takes quite a few more passes than usual. When the mop pads on the Narwhal Frio get dirty, it comes back to this base station, where there's both a clean water and dirty water reservoir that washes the pads and makes sure it's clean again to go back out and continue its job. If you're a fan of high-tech home gadgets, this one has been a lot of fun for us. I think Cambry even gave it a name.
Yeah, it's Wally.
Fantastic name. I'll leave a link for this down in the video description.
Or you can just search Narwhal Frio on Google or Amazon.
And now that the dirt inside is taken care of, I gotta get back to the dirt on the outside. Huge thanks to Narwhal Frio for sponsoring this video. Dirt weighs a whole lot more than you might think. One single cubic yard of dirt, on average, weighs about 2,000 pounds. A single yard about maxes out the capacity of a normal-sized pickup truck bed. The sheer weight of dirt is one of the reasons why it's so incredibly dangerous working inside of a deep hole. Any crack of the wall or shift of the ground could drop an elephant's weight worth of dirt down on top of someone at the bottom in just a split second, and that happens all of the time. One way to help mitigate the risk is to slope in the walls, or in our case, add little terraces or steps. This gives the rock and dirt somewhere to sit and decreases the likelihood of a landslide. There's no point in building a bunker in your backyard if you're not around to use it. You don't have to terrace your hole, of course, you just run the small risk of dying if you don't. The guys digging my hole have kind of created a rather ingenious method of knowing exactly where the steps stop and start with these lines. You can see that the terraces line up with the lines going down, and there's lines along this side keeping the slope equal, both angles going down, where the bunker is going to end up landing. These fully loaded tractors are also so heavy that you can see my asphalt driveway rippling under their weight. Getting a new driveway wasn't something I really factored into the price when I budgeted for my bunker, but it's a little too late to turn back now. Looks like a giant mining pit in my backyard. In order for us to find the exact depth of this hole behind me, we have to use a giant measuring stick with a laser on it. The measuring stick itself is 25 feet tall and we have the laser at 18 feet. Or I guess I should say laser receiver. The guy sitting right here in my driveway is shining lasers out in a flat surface, and the receiver on the giant measuring stick receives those and tells us exactly how deep the hole is. Lasers really are the solution to everything. My previous 3-year-old self would be so excited if he could see where I am right now with the superior view of an excavator. Pretty darn incredible, and I found an awesome rock. Take a look at this. I didn't even know rocks came in this color. But if you think about it, the rocks at the bottom of this hole probably haven't seen the light of day. Billions of years? Millions of years? It's been a really long time since this rock has seen the sun. Dang. You can see the top layers of soil and then some clay and then some gravelly sandy stuff, and apparently this is actually really good material. It's like permeable or something, so all the water is just gonna flow right through it. There is less need to truck in more gravel as a support structure underneath the bunker. Or so the engineers tell me. Still 18 feet down. This rock right here No one's seen this rock for a millennia. Look at that, it's pink. That's actually really cool. I'm saving this one. This is kind of turning into a Dirt Facts with Jerry video, but I also learned that dirt expands about 3 times in volume as it gets uncompacted, uncompressed and removed from the ground. This is my first bunker, so I'm learning quite a lot, but luckily my extremely awesome neighbor let me put some of my backyard into his backyard. Thumbs up for chill neighbors. It will only need to be there for a week or so while we put the bunker together at the bottom of the hole. And then we'll use that same dirt, minus the 200 yards we trucked off, to refill the hole again. There are separate piles, of course, for the topsoil, the clay layers, and the sandy gravel stuff, since each layer has a different purpose in our ecosystem, but we'll talk more about that as the bunker gets buried, hopefully here soon. After we pulled laser from the top coming down, we can move the laser down here and just pull a much simpler flat area. Tyson's holding the laser. Oh, I'm standing between it. It has to have a direct line of sight. And that's how we know this is all gonna be level when we put the bunker down here at the bottom. Tyson, how safe do you feel with the excavator up there?
Pretty safe, but it's still kind of freaky to look at.
How much do excavators weigh?
I have no idea.
A lot.
A lot.
It looks like we're nearing completion of the hole. It's crazy to think that everything we're building right now and the 2 massive pieces of conduit are all gonna fit right here underground and just kind of disappear. They take up so much room up top. Like inside of this bunker, we're gonna have like a master bedroom over here and then a bunk bedroom and then just kind of like a man cave hideout in the whole other half of it. And all of it's just gonna be gone, invisible to the outside world, but buried 18 feet underground. You can kind of get like a size perspective. Tyson down there, who's Cambry's brother, itty bitty. This is so cool. Super fun project. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. The craziest thing at the bottom of this hill, you can see kind of like the lines of whatever lake that was here before as it like dropped layers of sand onto the bottom and dried. The veins of like iron oxide sands distributed throughout the bottom of the bunker hole. Look at that vein. That's a nice vein. It's also super interesting where we marked with spray paint as the digging progressed. That has held the sand together and hasn't kind of like blown away with the wind. The different levels or weights of sand between the layers have blown away differently. It's super interesting. We just finished digging. We are 18.5 feet underground and the crane is just about to show up, so we have to be quick. If you want to own your very own piece of this project, we have an exclusive jar of dirt from 18.5 feet underground. Collected right here in my backyard, it probably hasn't seen the light of day in a million years. Yours to own for the very low price of $9.99. And to sweeten the deal, I have 25 of these 1-ounce bars of silver that I'm going to hide inside the jars of dirt. What's the point of digging a hole this deep if you don't find any treasure? However, if you don't happen to get a bar of silver in your jar of dirt, just remember that the real treasure are the friends we made along the way. The crane has arrived and the bunker is flying. Once this hole is buried, there are no more jars of dirt, so get them while you can. 5,000 pounds of tube above my head. That is, well, not right above my head. I wouldn't do that. But wow, that is impressive. My wife's super excited to get these off of our driveway and down in the ground below my backyard. I'm excited, that's amazing. The excavator that dug our hole is actually pretty ridiculously strong, and originally we planned on using the excavator to move the pipes down into the hole, and it totally could have, but as we kept going deeper and deeper and deeper, we realized that the laws of physics weren't quite on our side, and the reach of the excavator was going to be a real problem. So we hired a crane, and it got here in one day and was very easily able to lift our 5,000 pounds worth of future bunker bits like it was nothing, up over the trees and down below grade to sit in its new subterranean home. And honestly, the crane was worth every penny. For an entire day, this crane cost exactly $1,864. If I had to do this whole project over again, I would have just bought one 40-foot piece of culvert instead of two 20-footers, since messing around with the metal joining flanges in the last video was extremely expensive and time-consuming.
My neighbor's scoping out the project. Tube number 2.
A single 40-foot culvert would have reduced our flanges by 50% and made waterproofing the bunker a whole lot easier. Obviously, if our hole was a bit further from the tube, we would need a far larger crane, which would cost exponentially more. But in my case, with this size of crane, it's 100% worth it. I'll explain what we use the concrete blocks for later. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss this whole project coming together.
Forbidden cotton candy.
And back to the flanges that I wish we'd never had to deal with. Earlier, we did put a piece of rubber on the edge of one of the flanges so that when we finally did bolt the two halves together with grade 8 hardware, the rubber would help create a tight seam between the two culverts.
With bolt tubes in the ground, we are trying to get them bolted together. Previously, we put kind of like a rubber gasket around the exterior of it. So when we do clamp them together, it'll be watertight. Getting the bolt holes to line up has been a little more difficult than we anticipated. We're trying to line up the paint marks here with the paint marks over there.
Yeah, if this hole lines up with this hole, mint.
The goal now is we're hooking the crane up to both tubes at the same time, and we're gonna lift up and see if we can pinch these two parts together and get our bolts through. So far we gotta find a better way to do this next time, if there is a next time.
Took us a few tries to rotate and clock the culverts correctly. But when you're in this deep, failure is not an option.
What size bolts are these?
Two. Too small.
And that ends chapter 3 of the Ground X Bunker saga. We're still working on the entry and exit shaft, but that should be in the next video. If you want to grab shirts or your very exclusive jar of dirt, I'll leave links for that down in the description. And thank you so much for watching. This is a super fun project and I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. I'll see you next week.